This is the L3 Officiating Group's Continual Development Session. This is session number 7. We've had 7 strong weeks. We're thankful for everyone's participation. We welcome everyone. Please feel free to participate and ask any questions or share any observations that you may have. This week's topic is rebounding. And so we will get into rebounding. We will review the principles of rebounding first. And then, as we normally do, we'll roll through our clips one at a time. All right. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? All right, great. We've posted the links to each clip in GroupMe and in the chat section. So if you want to pull up the clips on a separate device and watch them at the same time that we're reviewing the clips, that'd be great. We're trying something a little bit different this week. So let's see if this works. All right. First, let's review the principles of rebounding before we get into the clips. All right, the one thing that we discuss often is that there are 2 phases to rebounding. There's the pre-bound and then the rebound. The rebound is the time frame when the shot is released until the ball hits the rim. That's the phrase when we have to understand what we've been working on the last several weeks is not just where we're looking, but specifically what are we looking at. And it's important to understand that to establish and maintain a legal rebounding position, the player shall not displace, charge, or push an opponent. Sometimes we confuse backing out with blocking out. The players can block out, but they cannot displace. The rules are pretty consistent across the levels from high school to college to the professional ranks, men and women. They're pretty consistent, some slight differences here and there, but overall, they're pretty much the same. A player shall not extend either or both shoulders, hips, or knees, or extend either or both arms or elbows fully or partially in a position other than vertical, so that freedom of movement of an opponent is hindered when contact with any of these body parts shall occur. And this would get into our holds, our hooks, our clamps, the swim moves. These are the areas that we should be looking for specifically during the pre-bound phase. Once we progress, this is on every shot attempt that's taken. Once we progress through the pre-bound phase, which is the time when the shot is released till it hits the rim, then we get into the rebound phase. Now, this is the time frame when the ball hits the rim and it's secured by a player. And once we get into rebound phase, now we're refereeing officiating verticality, because players must remain in their established vertical plane when rebounding. To establish and maintain legal position, the player shall not undercut, displace an airborne rebounder, taking away his or her landing space. A player shall not violate the principle of verticality. Okay, I'm going to pause right here real quick. Last week we covered verticality. There's a reason why we're covering the topics in a particular order, because they all tie together. And this is also another reason why understanding our principles of officiating is vitally important. If we don't understand verticality, we run the risk of not being very accurate on our verticality plays. Likewise, if we don't understand verticality, we place ourselves in position to not being as accurate in our rebounding plays. So it all ties together, which is why we continue to stress that everyone should spend a lot of time and energy understanding and learning their officiating principles, because they all tie together. The last point that we'll cover is that every player on the floor is entitled to their spot, provided that such player gets there first without illegally contacting an opponent. So when we're officiating rebounding, not only do we must understand what area of the floor we should be looking at from all 3 positions, we should now elevate ourselves to having an understanding of what specifically should we be looking for when we're looking in these areas, and what we should be looking for at both phases of the rebounding phase. Pre-bound, and then the ball hits the rim, comes off the rim, we're going straight to verticality. All right, do we have any questions so far? Todd, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's there, Wayne. Hey guys, so just real quick, for those of you that haven't been on the call before, I just want you guys to know that this is interactive. If you guys have any questions about anything, no question is a silly question, so please just feel free to ask. Because at the end of the day, like I say every week, we're all here to get better together. So please feel free to interact if you can. So
That's correct.
Where did you guys say we can find the plays? Oh, you're gonna show them.
okay, Todd, real quick. So Todd is a center official here. And if you don't mind, we'll just watch the play once, Wayne, and then Todd, you can tell us your experience since you were out there on the floor. Okay, let's watch it one more time, Wayne. Okay, Todd, you want to break this down for us?
I'll give it a shot. First of all, we talked about positioning. I thought all three of our initial positioning was pretty good. Trail maybe could have been down another step. We're all familiar with both of these teams. We've had them several times at this point in the season, familiar with their personnel and what they're running. And they run this ball screen and then she steps back. My first thought when I look at myself, I'm back on my heels and should have been more up on my toes. In a pretty decent position on the floor, maybe a step below the free throw line. I've been told I need to relax a little bit more, so maybe that's why I caught myself back on my heels a little bit. And then ball screen takes place, and then my next thought is I'm going to have a lot of action on my side of the court because most of the players end up on C side of the court. So we have the ball screen, and then Red, I believe it was Red 2, is the dribbler, steps back and shoots it. I was processing, self-talking, up, down, rebound. She had her foot on the line, so back in my coaching days, that was a bad shot. She should have been shooting a 3, but I had to indicate that it was a 2. And looking back on it in perspective, I probably didn't get the initial rebounding action. Felt like on the rebound I had a good look at White 5, which was the one I ended up with the foul. But I had a close look to Red 13, who was on the inside, and I deemed it illegal contact by White 5 with a push, as Red 13 was entitled to that spot on the rebound. The ball hit the rim. And we've talked about in the past, White 5 from previous games was known as a game interrupter. And but after watching it on film with the camera from the other side of the court, it appears to me that Red 13 clamped her and pulled White 5 down.
Okay, good. Okay, so a few things that kind of stood out to me, if we just run it from the very beginning, Wayne, and we just talk about positioning. Trail here, he starts off in a good position, but like you said, I think it's important at Trail, at least I know it's worked for me, to stay more like sideline oriented. And he also seems a little bit like flat-footed, maybe a little bit stagnant. So we just have to remember, weight distribution and just so he can make sure that he stays engaged with this play. And as you look at the lead here, he seems to be a little bit tight. In my opinion, I think he should be a little bit wider because obviously the wider we are, the more that we can see and the better shot that we have at like picking up secondary defenders and all that other stuff. Now, when I look at you, Todd, you mentioned that you look a little bit flat, and I agree. But what I do like is, Wayne, go ahead and play it, like right when she's going to catch to shoot. I really like that little position adjustment that you did right there. It was slight, but you got in position to be able to see, like you said, up, down, rebound. So it was slight, but it was a really good position adjustment. So it was really good, because if you stay there, you're just going to get stacked. So that was really good. Okay, does anyone have any other observations on this particular clip? Any thoughts?
Yes, Todd, when, either at halftime or between periods, did you and your lead discuss this play at all?
We did not.
Because as you mentioned in your, when you were reviewing the play, the red player appears to clamp the white player and pulled her to the floor. And from your position, you can see the contact with the white player into the red player, but you can't see the clamp. I was wondering if your lead had a different perspective on the play.
No, we didn't discuss that, but you can see the coach there with the black shirt for the white team. He is usually pretty calm, and he did react a little bit, because I think initially he thought I was, calling it on red 13.
Correct. Because you look at the position of where the coach is standing, and this look at the play, he has the same look that lead has.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Wayne, can I throw something in here?
Of course.
There's a huge value in knowing player tendencies and player personalities, but we have to be careful to not referee just based on that. So definitely a 5's been a problem in previous games. Now this game's early, so she probably hasn't had time to be a problem yet. And it's good to have that information, but don't always referee on just that. And I'm not saying, Todd, that you did here. It's just something to throw out there when we start talking about referee 202 and 303. We have to be careful with how we use those little nuggets that we get. Just a thought on that. And I do think Leeds got a great shot at this play, and it'd have been fantastic if she doubled with you. And did it ever go through your mind on this play? And again, it's early to have a double foul. Did anybody think about that when you guys talked about this play later?
No, that wasn't any part of discussion.
Okay. And it's hard from this angle, but when you have plays like this, especially early, it's an opportunity sometimes to send a message if you think they're both jacking around. I do think red clamps here from this angle. And I'm also not a fan of just penalizing them both just to be penalizing them. But it's good to think through all your options in the moment. And this is a great example of how early in the game this stuff can get you. You guys have played 6 minutes. So
Right,
anyway.
that's a very good point. But the double foul, no, that was not any point of discussion.
Amy brings up a great point with lead. I would say that potentially in this kind of setup, sometimes Todd, you probably didn't see the rebounding play start, develop, and finish because you were on ball bringing the shooter back to the ground, right? So you kind of caught the second half of the play.
That's correct. I picked it up about right there, to be honest with you.
Right. So let's just say that you didn't react and you don't know. You're going to trust lead, and lead right now has nobody else. There's no other engaged rebounding matchup anywhere except for that one over here on her side, which it doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on. So lead's just got to be aware that center is on ball, primary. So center is going to be getting the rebounding late. So that needs to be the primary focus of lead at that moment, because I would argue that in some cases we would see this play go no called. And that would be really, really bad, especially this early in the game, because the lead's got to blow in this play.
Well, that definitely went through my mind as I was processing it. I'm like, that's more than incidental, and that's why I put a whistle on it.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
I tried to have a little bit of a cadence, but when I do the stay here, for some reason I get excited to point down to the floor with two hands, so I go pretty quick on my stay here foul signal.
That's good. And as far as our rebounding mechanics go, lead is going to be refereeing on his side. Since Sear slot is taking up down rebound, Trail needs to extend to that to the strong side over here to make sure that they help out with that. So if you don't see it, Todd, or if your lead doesn't see it, Trail needs to come in because that is our coverage to help out, because you should be on up down rebound and you're getting there late. So it's just something to be aware of.
Hey, Wayne, this is Garrett. Can you go back a click or two? Because I don't want Al Batista just put something in the chat that I hope everyone saw and I was going to comment on. If you can just go back, get ready to pause. Get ready, pause. Anytime you see a player's arms go straight out, your antennas should go up, because that should be a clue to you that something's could possibly get ready to happen. So anytime we see arms go out, antennas go up, and now we really need to pay attention to that, because usually that's the person who's going to be fouled. And I think Al put it in the chat, so I want to make sure that didn't go unnoticed. It's just a clue. It's just one of the things to help us and to help us referee these type of plays. Especially with the whole hook and hold coming into the game, and because we obviously need to make sure that we get the first person.
That's good, Garrett.
I can't take credit. Al, that's Al Batista, baby.
Thank you for assisting Al. Do you have any other observations or comments? You know, Amy made an excellent point when she mentioned that there are times when we can utilize information during our pregame discussions about tendencies of players, teams, and coaches. And you're right. This is information that we need, but we have to be careful to not develop a preconceived idea of behavior before the game even starts. And sometimes we spotlight a player or we spotlight a coach, and we anticipate a certain behavior, and we're looking for it unintentionally, when we may have a situation on the floor that occurs that may not fit exactly what we had discussed, but since we have already preconditioned our mind, we interpret it as such, and we have a tendency to apply something to someone that's not totally accurate. So I agree with that 100%. Yes, we need to be aware so that if something happens, it doesn't surprise us, but let's not expect it until it happens. And Todd, I'm going to say one more thing, right?
I know what you're going to say.
Like I say, yep, take shooter up, down, rebound. What hand should we call our foul with?
Outside.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Should have been my
Yes,
left.
left hand, correct. That's correct.
And another little tidbit here, just awareness for the crew. I mean, we have bodies on the floor here, right? So we just have to make sure, especially as the lead in the trail, that we stay with these players on the floor and we make our presence known, which I think we do a good job of here. But let's just not take that for granted and just make sure when there's bodies on the floor, we've got to have our eyes there. So
that's good. Good. All right. Any other comments or observations on clip number 1?
Thanks for everyone's feedback. Appreciate it.
Oh, yes. Hey, Todd, thank you for offering. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that. All right, Angel, are you with us?
she's here.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I had to get off mute.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, Angel, thank you for providing the clip for us. Same thing, we're going to run through it a couple of times. And then if you don't mind, walk us through your processing of the play, please.
Got it.
Okay, so Angel, real quick, can we watch it just one more time, please, Wayne? Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so first off, we want to remember Wayne talked about the pre-bound, and when we're in a free throw situation, that's really what we're going to be looking at. I think it's prior to them jumping up, right? When we start with coverage on this, the lead official has the opposite lane line players, and what's tricky on our coverage on free throw is when the ball's released, coverage's lead is supposed to then go to their near side for rebounding action. I had a big picture view on this play. I'm at the 3-foot posted up mark. I have a great angle. The shot goes up, and as the shot goes up, I see number 4, Moses, swing his right arm out and into the chest of 12, which sends him to the ground. I believe I could have had a little bit better cadence on this play because technically by the mechanics, this would be Slot's foul to call. However, I don't think Slot can see all of the illegal contact on it because it starts on the front side of that bottom block player. So one thing I'd like to change, well, I have a couple of things I'd like to change. My signal, I need to just do the loose ball signal and not post. And then also give Slot the opportunity to have the first whistle in this play. So, and with this, the foul is on the offensive team since the ball's released. We do count the free throw. And then the resumption of play will be running the inline as if any normal score. Any comments?
I'm going to take you off the hook a little bit as far as the cadence piece, and obviously it's up for discussion, but I would have a really hard time. I mean, yeah, the ball's in the air, but I would have a hard time if I'm center transitioning from that opposite block to this one to see exactly what happened. So I like that you stay with this. Technically on the release, we change, but I think you have to have this call. And so your cadence to me is just fine.
Okay. I appreciate that, Amy. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just, we've got our guidelines and all that, but we also have to be practical about how we go about using them and putting them in play.
Yeah. We have a couple of questions in the chat. One was, what did Trail come down and ask me? He just wanted clarification on who the foul was on. Because I didn't do the going down signal. So I should have come loose ball and then pointed down so that my teammates, my crew knew that we had a foul on the offensive team. So we'd go the other way. Later in the clip, my Slot also comes to me because he thinks it needed to be inbounded on the free throw line extended mark, which is usually the case on a loose ball foul. But since there was a made basket, we give the privileges to the new offensive team to run the inline.
Now, would we handle that the same on the men's side and on the women's side?
I can answer the women's side, but Garrett, you want to do men's?
Sorry, hold on.
I'll steal Garrett's thunder. So as long as we're not shooting and nobody's in the bonus, then yeah, we would give it to them on the inline, and they would still have the privilege of running since it was a foul by the offensive team. However, and I was going to ask this question, for argument's sake, take this to, later in the game when we're in a bonus situation. My question to everybody is, how do we, what's our resumption of play then?
For us, we would be in the penalty. We would go down and shoot for the penalty. 12 would go shoot our free throws. Same on the women's side.
Yeah, same on the men's side. And as well as high school.
Oh my gosh, all the leagues align. This is amazing.
For once.
We better never mess this up.
I think you do a really good job, Angel, but like you were saying, if you do the loose ball foul and right away you're going to do either going down or staying here, that's just nonverbal communication to not only her partners, but also the players and everybody, and can get them moving in the right direction versus everybody just staying still. So that's a good point.
And same for the women's. I know they want us to bring our fist up and then we need to point, right? So that's our CCA manual. That's exactly how we need to do it. So we got to make sure we bring our fist up and then we point so we can, like they said, communicate to everybody. Any other questions or thoughts on this play?
Hi, my name is Kenya. This is my first session, so hello everyone.
Hi.
I don't know if this matters at this level, but the violation from the top of the key, is that something that you all enforce? So the play is running in through the 3-point line for the trail.
So in the G League and the NBA, the outside players are on the 3-point line are allowed to leave as soon as it's released.
Got it. Okay.
But so say that this was a violation for, say it's a college, we wouldn't call a violation because it's a made basket, right?
Agreed.
On the defensive, we would wait, and if it's missed, then we would call the violation.
Right. So a good way to think of that too is when defense delay, right? So we need to delay ourselves when the defensive team violates. That's just a good way for me. That's helped me out to just kind of remember and just slow things down. Does any, and in high school, I'm sorry, what did you say your name was again? I didn't get to.
Kenya.
Okay. Do you work, what, do you work high school or college or?
Both.
Okay, awesome. So is it the same in high school?
Yeah, it would be
As far as
delayed.
the players running when the ball is
Yeah.
released?
Yeah, but I just saw it and I didn't know. I figured that in the G League they didn't. Not that they didn't care, they didn't enforce that. I mean,
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Appreciate it. All right. Okay, Wayne, do you want to go ahead? Let me see, make sure there's nothing else in the chat here. Yes, okay. Yeah, I think we're ready to move on to the next play, Wayne. By the way, the video is excellent. It's looking a lot better, Wayne, so thank you for doing that. All right. Garrett, I believe this is yours. Are you on? Yeah, you're on, right.
So here we have a, it's going to be basically a slot side dribble drive shot in the paint right there. And I think as a crew, we have this play covered pretty well. No reason for me to position adjust anywhere. No reason for our slot to position anywhere. He's got a great look at it. And our lead, obviously, with that drive coming down the paint, has any of the secondary defenders in there to make sure they're not in the restricted area. As you can see, one of the anytime you see a player put two hands on their back, once again, antennas need to go up. Now we basically have, if you see an inverted C here, so this is another tail sign that he got pushed in the back. Mark Wunderlich talks about anytime someone puts two hands in their back, and it doesn't happen on this play because Texas A&M player actually does deflect the ball at the last second there. Anytime there's two hands in the back and a player catches the ball, the offensive player, there's another clue that more than likely that person pushed that defender in order for them to actually catch the ball with two hands. It's not a, it's not a 10 out of 10 thing, but it's just something else to be aware of. And you can see this right here. So antennas are up right now. I feel like I have a great look at this. Slot has a good look at this. Maybe a position adjusted down one step, maybe. Leads in I think in a very dependable position. Go ahead, Wayne. And there's the push and the extension. Where Angel talked about she should have gone loose ball and pointed or stayed here, just like Blanca has said, in our game, even on the men's side, we need to have our hand in the air, and then we can just point. And then you can see we make eye contact to see who wants to take it to take it to the table. Gerald was right there, so just let him go ahead and take it. Anybody disagree with that? Anybody else want to talk more about this play? Pretty simple, I think. I don't bail out. If I have to give myself some kudos, I don't bail out. That's something I've been working hard on. Maybe I could take a step down, if anything. But the bottom line is I'm not bailing out. I'm not moving. I am engaged with this play. I just need to have a feel for white 5 here, that if I feel like he gets any closer to me, then I definitely would need to position adjust.
That's good, G. I was just wondering, because I saw in the chat, Al said he didn't like the positioning of the T and C. Al, were you wanting them more staggered?
Yeah, I should have definitely been. I should have had a staggered stance there.
Yeah, I'm just big on footwork. It's just me and Mike Millian. He's been to a lot of my things. We really work on footwork, and just a little thing. When you, I think when officials do conditioning, I don't think we really work on our footwork and are we balanced? Because if you can get your footwork properly, and back in the day at George Tolliver's camp, we used to do a lot of footwork drills, like right, left, move to your right, left, move, and so on. But if you get in these neutral stances, okay, you're going to get surprised. For example, just to give you an example, if you watch boxing, anytime you get in a neutral stance, you get knocked down. and it just, if you get into this stance, if you get staggered, you're just more engaged and you won't get surprised. A lot of times it won't, hurt you, but that one time it will. It's just a little thing. But what I like about this tape, it's a good example of possession consequence.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more, Al?
What's that?
Possession consequence.
Oh, right here, or a rebound. If I'm a trill, self-talk, we're good. Go ahead. We're good. And, it's actually cleanup. So it's actually cleanup. You could have both, but it's good. Oh, he accelerates him, and, it's a foul. And and what I like, too, what Garrick does, he processes it well. It's bang, foul, right there. So let's take it further. We got the drive. Who's got what on the rebound? So Garrick's got this play. Lead might have 22 and 33, and center or slot, whatever you want to call it, can assist. No, it's good. Just real quickly, when you think of yourself in a trail, if you got to go back, I think of it like stealing a base. If I get neutral and I'm in the trail and I want to steal a base, it's kind of hard. But if I get staggered, if I put my right foot out in front and I cross over, if I put my left foot out in front, I just turn and go. And believe me, at 63 years old, I can still get out there, which I still do, and they're not going to beat me if I get in the correct stances.
Showing your age, Al.
Yeah.
That's right.
Blanca, can I say one thing real quick?
Of course.
Can you just stop it when Garrick puts his fist up and points? Like, I just think this is, I know we were saying how we want to have our left hand on the left side of the court. I think in this situation, this just looks really, really strong. And if you look at Garrick's head, he's still with all the players and not going to report. And I just thought that him staying with the players and not being so quick to leave and report was a really good point from this too.
Well, thank you.
Mechanically too, just to jump in for a second, where we have it paused now, and it seems as if that's the case, that Slot never posts up. So if he had something different, I think this play, it was pretty obvious who the foul was on, but it could have gotten us in trouble with our mechanics had we just pointed and not posted with the fist first. I know we don't talk about that a lot with rebounding fouls, but I think when we hear another whistle, if we have our fist up first, we can be cautious about pointing prior to knowing what our partners have. So
Can we go back to the play? Can we go back to the play? Another drill, okay? Another drill. The visitors are in the penalty or bonus, okay? Who's shooting?
Red.
32 is going to shoot, right?
Right.
Okay. Go back to the play. What was the time on the clock when the foul was called? And the reason I want you to get in that habit, in case an observer or supervisor comes into your locker room and they'll say, you remember the foul at 7:49? Yep. Okay, well, what did you have on it? Well, it was clean up, possession, consequence. But if someone comes in there, this is for development, and they go, you remember the foul at 7:49? And you go, what? You know, then that just doesn't look good. So those two little drills are going to help your awareness. So when you watch tape, do little drills like that. Sorry.
Blanca, it's Lauren. Can you hear me?
Hey, Lo. Yeah.
Hey. I agree with everything Al's saying. Possession, consequence, cleanup, and I think what you wanted him to do is going into a little bit of detail for maybe people that hadn't heard that before. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, so possession consequence means you think that that's an illegal act, and you determine that it's illegal once possession is gained. So the consequence is a loss of possession. So had maybe if it was less contact and their team was able to maintain control of the ball, then you wouldn't need to call a foul. I think this is a foul either way. And then cleanup is, some players are being aggressive, and you can use this as an opportunity to clean up the game. But I think it's important to understand that those are terms that we use internally and things that help us make decisions on the court. And they're not things that we should be saying to coaches on the court as things that lead to our decision. Those are kind of just play calling guidelines, as Al calls them, things that help us. But, you can kind of get yourself in trouble if you say the wrong thing in that situation.
That's a great point. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, Lauren. Does anybody have any questions? Does everybody understand that, what she just explained? Okay, that's really good. Good stuff. Okay. All right, Wayne, we want to, yeah, let's move on to the next play here. And this will be Stephanie's play. Steph, are you on?
Still here.
Okay, so let's run it back. Okay, Steph, you want to talk to us about what happened here?
Yeah, so we had just completed a rotation whenever the shot went off. So I'm still moving. I was a little bit late on the rotation. So I'm moving into place on this shot to watch the rebounding. So I pick up on those two that are coming in on the offside. I think it looks like blue 24 and then the white with the headband that are coming in. So for the most part, they're legal. They're kind of jostling a little bit, but for the most part, they're legal on the pre-bound. And then as you continue to roll it, Wayne, these other two come in, and the girl that's above the other ones in white jumps through the other defenders. And I'm interested to hear feedback on this. At the moment, I thought they were all in equally advantageous positions. And I still think that. And she jumps through and tries to slice all the defenders or all the other players. And so she jumps through and ends up on the ground. And blue jumps through, hits the ball, and takes her to the ground with the ball. Or not with the ball, she hits it, and then she falls to the ground because she hit all the other players. Pushes her own player out of the way, too. If you can see her left off arm, she pushes her own teammate out of the way and lands on the floor for a travel. You can kind of see I processed the play, but I was kind of surprised by it, by the way that I popped my whistle out, too. I wish my trail would have stayed a little bit more in the play. He kind of bails a little bit. And I wish he would have stayed a little bit more in the play so he could have helped maybe a little bit on that. Because I don't think the lead can really see what goes on in the play at all. And not by his fault. I think he's watching rebounding action, but he can't see that backside. So I wish the trail would have stayed just a little bit longer, because I think I ended up with about 6 players in front of me for that rebounding action. But that's about how that play went. So I'm interested to hear anybody else's feedback on that as well. Oh, and lead was going to call it out of bounds. Okay. We went and talked about that. He had an out of bounds on that play.
That's what I was going to ask. What was he doing? He was calling a foul or had a violation as well. But he had out of bounds.
Yeah, he had out of bounds. She landed with the ball out.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot going on this play stuff. I mean, if you look at where all the players are, they're literally like all bunched up right here.
Yeah.
It looks like lead really doesn't have any idea. And and when I say this, I'm not trying to throw lead under the bus. This is a hot mess play.
No. Yeah.
But is she really out of bounds? Or is he just like putting it going, sheesh, we need something, I don't know what I got, is kind of what I feel like what his body language is showing to me.
Right.
But I from here, I can't tell that she's ever out of bounds. And yeah, I agree, Trail needs to step down. I don't know that Trail can help a lot on this either, other than being prepared to come in and help. Because unless they step down to where that assistant coach is or the head coach, they're not going to have a great look at this play. But Trail could be better engaged. That's the problem there. This is one of those plays that really you're almost on your own, and lead's the only other one to help you with. And that happens to us at times, right? It's going to happen where it all's in your lap and you got to make a decision. Yeah, you can tell you're processing and then you find a way out of it. Again, it's the reality that happens. It's a hard angle to see. It looks like white displaces blue here. Does anybody else like white?
Yeah, I agree with you. I was going to say that. It looks like the player in white, you said that she pushed her own player, but it also looks like she pushed the player in blue. So if we think of our option thinking, the end result of an offensive foul is still going to be blue ball. You called it travel, so you're giving the ball back to the blue team, and because it's a mess, and you really, we're not searching, you don't penalize white with the foul.
That's good. Stephanie, after you call the travel, just don't be too eager to leave. It's really good that lead's there and he's coming, and I think that's huge in all of our games at any level. Just making sure that we have to dead ball officiate, but just don't be too quick to leave these situations.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't mean to jump in on you, B, but one other thing, and as we throw out these terms today, for whatever reason, I'm kind of keying in on that. You said early about equally advantageous positions. And that's true, and it's in the rule book. This play, it's hard for me to, if I'm a supervisor, it's going to be hard for me to say that these two are these players are equally advantageous. White's coming in from the outside and going to the ball, and blue underneath is just trying to go up and get the ball. You know, usually those equally advantageous plays are people that are coming together and meeting at a point. And those plays happen a lot on loose balls and sometimes on rebounding. But when you have someone flying in from the outside, you usually don't have someone on rebounding flying in from underneath the basket coming out to get it. So just be careful when you try to apply those concepts to get out of a play. And I've done it, but just be careful with that.
Okay, yeah.
And I was just gonna make, that was really good, Amy. Another little note here, if we compare this trail to Garrick's play that we just watched prior, if you go back, Wayne, and you see trail, he starts to bail, okay? So we just have to make sure, like Garrick said earlier, we have to stay with the action. Even though it's hard for him to see anything from where he's at, we can't bail. You know, we have to make sure that we're there and we're able to assist if we can.
Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah, I just got to get off this thing real quick and I'm going to get on yours, okay? Okay.
Okay, Al.
I'm sorry. I have to get on a podcast.
I'm just kidding, Al. I was giving you a hard time. Thanks for being with us today.
All right.
It's tough to be in high demand, Al.
Okay, I think, Wayne, we have time for maybe one more play.
One more. Sorry, I was muted, but before we leave Steph's play, and one element that we did discuss prior to the clip starting, and that's an element with rebounding, we have to be aware of verticality. You're right, we have the white player diving in from outside, and Steph did a great job picking up that competitive matchup on her side of the lane before they got to the lane area. But we must pick up the trajectory of that player who's diving hard from the outside toward the basket. And she invaded the blue player's vertical space as she's attempting to gain possession of the rebound. So we have to pick up her trajectory, her movement, and we have to referee verticality when the ball comes off the rim. And I believe that if we picked up her movement, the location of that blue player, which may have been hard from the C position because you also had two other players on that side of the lane that you've been trying to look through. Your lead, on the other hand, has a great look at this, a great look at the position of the players in their vertical space. This is when we have to stay engaged and we have to pick up their movement and then determine if there's illegal contact or not.
That's good. Thanks, Wayne.
All right, Mitch, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
There too. So if we're gonna do both of ours, then we can just both do it.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna run through the play a couple of times, Mitch, and then you'll walk us through it.
Got it. For everyone, I'm at C here. And the contact will occur right underneath the basket.
Let's run through it again. All right, Mitch, how did you perceive the play?
Okay, so if you can go back to like right where she takes the jump shot around the free throw line, I see the two players down here on the block. They engage probably right about the block area. And so, no, on my side of the lane, yeah, these two, yeah, those two. So they engage, and that's all that I'm looking at right there. And then I see they make contact, not a big deal. And then whenever the ball hits the rim and it's coming into the rebound phase, White moves her off of her spot with her butt and grabs the rebound. And so my self-talk was like, all right, I do this every single time that there's a rebound, is like, because Wayne, I know you've drilled it in my head, like, all right, if we're going to stay here, use my right hand, and we're going to stay here. If we're going the other way, left hand and point. And so I'm thinking, all right, if we have a foul on white, left hand and point. And so I do that. I see her move her off her spot, and then I fire. So that's how I perceive the play.
Does anybody see, if some of you guys were on the court club call yesterday, I'm going to pull a Ned Rush here. Does anybody see anything missing on this play as we look at it?
The trail.
Right. So we have to make sure that we need to be in the frame, right? Like trail, even at this point here, like there's still nowhere to be seen. So we have to make sure, again, that we're there because that's our responsibility as well. So, any other thoughts or comments on this play?
Let's talk about the angle. I'm assuming you're calling a displacement foul on white.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about who really has the A look at this play, and we just talked about it. But like, stop it right there. Slot and trail have the same look of lateral movement on white. I'm sorry, slot and lead. My apologies. Mm-hmm. If trail was connected to this play and could see space, there's a lot of stuff going on. But trail could see the displacement from sideline to sideline better than center and lead can in this play.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So after this, we came together. Well, at the next break, I don't remember. I think it was the third quarter. We came together and we talked about this play. And I asked their opinions in the trail. He said that he was only concerned with the bench because that's an assistant coach in the blue. He was up all game. I ended up having to warn them. And that's all that he had brought to the conversation. The lead said, oh, good job. That was a good call. They might not have liked it, but it's a good call. So that's the extent of our conversation. Me and the coach had two separate conversations about that. One, I think we had a timeout right after this, and then at another break, and she was just wanting to know what her girl did wrong. And I said that once they engaged, she moved her off her spot. So that was the extent of my conversation.
Hey, Mitchell, right? It's your play?
Yes.
Hey, it's Lauren. How are you?
I'm good.
I just wanted to add, so I know you said moved her off her spot and they engaged a few times, and I think it was Jason maybe that hopped in and said, I assume you're calling a displacement foul. I would just challenge you to kind of become more precise with your language and when you're talking to coaches. I think, words really matter on the court, and if you can get down and just say, she displaced her, that kind of just makes it more clear and concise, and it's verbiage that's in the rule book. Yeah. And it can just add a little bit more credibility. The other thing, I like your signal initially, and your point is very strong. And then I think the step after that, it looks like you begin to lose a little bit of your momentum. You're walking a little bit, kind of casual, like, I would try to tighten that up a little bit too. Make sure that you keep your eyes up and maintain a good posture and finish out the call.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Thank you.
Just one more thing on the signaling, and to each his own. But if you could get into a habit of, like Wayne talks about, calling it with your outside hand, and then just pointing with your outside hand, I think that pose, that statue pose, and just pointing shows a lot more composure and a stronger demeanor, as opposed to using both hands and going that way.
Okay.
That's just a personal thing.
Okay.
Yeah, just to offer a little clarification, because that's a great point. On the women's side, they do ask for us to use the inside hand point with the outside hand on shipping or rebounding fouls. On any other foul where we're staying in the front court, yes, definitely. Outside hand, for sure, definitely. This is one of the exceptions. With women basketball, we will utilize our inside hand so that we can point the direction with our outside hand so we can clearly communicate with everyone. Number one, I have a foul. Number two, we know which team the foul is on. It was on the shooting team and which direction we're heading. So it's clear and concise communication so everyone knows what we're doing. Any other observations or comments or follow-ups on the play?
Just that the lead was, it looked like the lead was about to go get the ball, and Blanca's made this point like 2 or 3 times on the call. But for people who are just coming on, just let the ball go. I think someone from the bench gets it. We just want to stay with those players, especially on fouls like that.
Exactly. So here's a question for you, Mitch. We actually have 2 contacts after the shot is released.
Wayne, I can't hear you. You might be on mute.
I'm muted again.
Yeah.
Wayne, did you want to say something about that play? You were saying that there were 2 contacts.
Yes. Yes, we had a contact prior to the ball hitting the rim, then after the ball hit the rim. If the non-shooting team had come down with a rebound, would we have still made the same decision?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think I would have. Just because she goes to the ground, and if we didn't have a whistle there, I think it would have been an issue.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great question.
That is correct. All right, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing on this play. I think, Mitch, if you run it back to when the shot occurs, the shot at the elbow I would say is still, in your primary area of coverage, and it looks like you turn off of it a little bit quickly. I would try to stay with that because, there's still a defender coming in. I know you might not have the best angle, but depending on, where that defender chooses to contest this shot, I would wait until she returns to the floor and then get to rebounding coverage because lead can help you on that rebounding coverage initially. I would just stay maybe a second longer on that shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed.
Mitch, this is Garrett. To kind of piggyback, I think that was just Lauren who was saying something. See how you do that one move right there?
Yeah.
Anytime we position adjust, try to make a habit of doing a 2-step adjustment.
Okay.
I think if you go down one more, now you will be able to stay engaged, and you'll be able to get to a point of contact right there. Not only the elbow on the floor, but possibly to her elbow as well. So kind of a rule of thumb for a lot of us is just a 2-step position adjustment.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Any other observations or comments on Mitchell's play? All right. Once again, we want to thank each and every one of you for being with us today. We want to thank you for taking your time and putting the effort into sharing your observations, your thoughts, your knowledge, your information. We really appreciate it. we will continue to hold weekly meetings until our reality that we're all experiencing changes, and with the hope and the goal that we'll all continue to work together and all continue to help one another and continue to improve as we go. Do we have any other comments or questions before we adjourn for the day?
I just want to say, piggyback off of what Wayne just said. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for interaction, and our apologies on what happened early in the call. We've never experienced that, but we'll definitely get it taken care of. So just thank you guys for being here and participating. And it's so cool that we get to just all grow and get better together. So I appreciate that.
Correct. Oh, and one more thing. Yes, B. And thanks everybody for your patience, because every week we try something a little bit different just to see how it works. Okay. So yes, we're continuing to get better as we go, and we're continuing to grow. It's a growing process for all of us. So thank you, everyone. Have a great week. Everyone stay safe. Stay in touch with your family. Let's continue to care and look out for one another. All right. Until next week. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.